Welcome back to TTC and welcome to the third episode of our Light Lumen test series. In our first episode, we built an unapologetically DIY light integration sphere to test light lumen output and paid a lab who's actually qualified for this sort of thing to test the same lights we did in order to calibrate our sphere with some very encouraging results. Today we look at a whole category of lights we use a lot around the shop, so maybe you do too. Light bar style inspection lights. Today focusing on models that for the most part can swap out batteries or at least have a charging dock option. Something that within this category is more rare than you might think. So today we're going to light detector test their lumen output versus what they claim, chart their light output over their runtime versus what they advertise there as well, take a look at charge time and current delivery, then destroy about $250 worth of lights for all of our amusement with some drop tests. That's going to include brands like Milwaukee, Streamlight, and, well, starting out in order of price as usual, the infamous Harbor Freight Braun inspection light. This $29.99 folding rechargeable work light can sometimes be had for $24.99 when it has a sale, and this has been the go-to light bar style work light in the past couple years for DIY and home gamers. At 390 lumen, it probably has just enough light output to be useful for professionals too, but full disclosure, this would be our third Braun we've purchased, as we're no stranger to them. In the past, we've had issues with the on-off switch and general durability problems, so we moved on, but maybe today it will see some redemption. It having a removable 18650 size lithium battery caused us to want to do a whole category like this one, although I'm not sure Harbor Freight had the idea of you swapping out batteries in and out as the plan for this tool, as it does come with a micro USB cable without a wall adapter and appears to be able to be used while plugged in, which is apparently something people want to know, even though we wouldn't use it that way. The 18650 it does come with is rated at 2200 milliamp hours, but of course part of the beauty here is you can purchase or use one of your own 18650 cells with an independent charger and have those ready to go with higher capacity as well, swapping out batteries without having that charge downtime. Of course, that does add $20 to $30 for quality options of those that we're willing to leave around unattended charging, so maybe wouldn't qualify as the cheapest option here anymore. Its base cap includes a magnet, which is pretty useful. We measured that at about 11 pounds of force. And see here, there's that light switch issue again, right out of the packaging. This time just required us taking the base cap off and putting it together on again and tightening it for it to work. Its light output is also the bluest on the day of the options that we bought, not our preferred type of light quality given the choice. But what about those lumens? Let's see, the Braun advertises 390 from the main light and 52 from the top flashlight. Letting the light run for 30 seconds first per the ANSI FL1 standard, we're seeing 350, 351, 352, 350 lumens. I'll be honest, with the torque that their impact wrenches put out versus their claims, we were expecting like 300 max on this guy. Not bad. On low, we're seeing about 110, 120, 105. Braun says 109, so that's pretty spot on. Then for the top light, we're getting 43 lumen. Not half bad, 89% of what they're saying when you total that all up. Stay tuned to see what happens to this light output over its runtime and if it can survive hitting the pavement. Our next cheapest rechargeable on the day is the Steelman Pro. We picked this one up because it's also quite cheap, around 32 bucks. Looks similar to the Braun light, had similar specs at 400 lumen, and had features similar to a more expensive light we'll also be testing today. It's also similar to the Harbor Freight in that it has a removable 18650 style battery included, yet it's only really 18650 in size and name only. This included cell from Steelman frustratingly has some type of lip on the top of it, meaning every other 18650 we had on hand would not work inside of this light. You need to use a battery like Steelman provides, which is also quite limiting at 2200 milliamp hours. Another frustrating part is this light is completely round. It rolls off of almost anything on a slight incline, and it's charged as a barrel plug style, so you can't really use any charger you have laying around that's micro USB. If you lose the charger this comes with, you're sort of SOL. A USB style design would make a lot more sense. And no magnet to speak of either, which is out the gate sort of a deal breaker for us. We didn't really notice that when we purchased this in the features. But it does have an included UV blacklight setting, which you can use for finding leaks with dye, which is something we use, so it's kind of handy. No top light on this one, so just the 400 lumen claim to contend with today. With almost a third of its SMD LEDs being dedicated to the blacklight, we're curious if it's really got any of the beans. Let's see it. Waiting 30 seconds and 590, 592, 590 lumens. Dang. We had to check this one out a few times just to make sure we weren't seeing something odd, but it doesn't seem right that it should make that much, but it does. Curious how a 2200 milliamp hour battery that you can't upgrade is going to fare at that level output. 148% of its claim though. I know we're only 3 episodes in, but that's usually not the direction things go on this series. If you want to peek at how low budget inspection light bars off of Amazon go, check out the Dr. Pepper model we tested last time. It boasted 700 lumens and a 3200 milliamp hour battery and made half of either of those claims where it mattered. Our next LED bar is sort of half stature compared to the others. The red lithium LED Rover from Milwaukee, designed as sort of a stick and stay work light more than a handheld, which is not a big problem for us. Having to hold onto it the whole time like the Steelman is not really our preferred method. This model is the 2112-21. It usually goes for $50 and advertises 445 lumen, the higher of the 2 smaller stick light options from Milwaukee. It comes with a fancy braided Milwaukee USB cable, and well, I'll be honest, we knew very little about Milwaukee red lithium USB lights in general when we just saw this one and it looked like a good 18650 cell next to it and thought, well, that's a real winner. But what's inside is a proprietary USB 3.0 stick that may have an 18650 inside of it, but as far as we can tell, it's not a universal design. It's meant to be used only to be charged inside of this tool or with one of Milwaukee's independent charging docks. A bit of a bummer to learn that, sort of like the Steelman with that proprietary design, but with a 3000 milliamp hour battery at least included, and it being potentially useful in a lot of other tools as well. The light that comes off this thing is very nice though. Milwaukee calls it their True View high definition lighting. Not sure the CRI rating on that or how close it replicates the sun, but we'd guess it's a full 2000 Kelvin lower than the Braun light and more pleasing to the eyes and helps identifying wire colors and such. The 7-pound magnet is useful for its size and weight, but not super strong. You will notice that the light it casts is super crisp though. It cuts off very cleanly on the edges, which is nice for us working up close in, let's say, a dash. You don't have that light washing over into your eyes. Let's see it though, 445 lumens from this little short guy. It's showing more like 355, and this is fully charged. Maybe it's how we're holding it though. It is a bit awkward of a sized light to test. So let's open up the flashlight hatch, and that's seeing 350, no change. Another surprise for us on the day. If you were to tell us at the beginning of the day that the Milwaukee light would be fibbing more than Harbor Freight, twice as much at that. This Milwaukee will have to go through a lot more testing though to see if it can redeem itself today. Our next most expensive light is around 65 to 70 bucks and showed up in this huge box, the Astro ADSL quick swap system. It's hard to do a light bar style light and not include Astro as well. Even Harbor Freight points out that. But this one was chosen because it appears to be their newest and only swappable battery light of this type. You sort of get a whole kit with this one. It's got a thumb wheel for adjustment on the back, and its main light is 2 strips of cob LED for a total, according to them, of 800 lumens or 150 from that top flashlight. The bottom's got a quick release, and out comes a 4500 milliamp hour 26650 size lithium cell. But it comes with an 18650 and a sleeve to show that you can use that size too, which is sort of the best part. You can use any of your own 2650 or 18650 cells in this light. The charging base has a rating of 3 amps and can charge the battery that's in the light or the spare cell beside it. Of course, these are currently charged for now. Let's see what she can do. Waiting 30 seconds and 877, 875, 72. We're calling that 875. But well up on that 800 claim. But what happens when you use the smaller battery included? Let's see. 775, 750, 770. We're calling that 770. Closer to that 800 figure now. And that 150 lumen top light, that's showing 190, 185, 185 lumens. Now for our most expensive light of the day, by popular demand in the comments section, the Streamlight Stinger Switchblade. This was $74 and advertises also 800 lumens like the Astro. Maybe we were fooled by the image though, or this box when it showed up, but this thing is massive. This isn't even in its final form. Unfolded, This is 17 inches long. You definitely get your money's worth if we're just talking size and weight. Of course, Streamlight makes a version, the Stryon, and that's only 500 lumens and was smaller, but it was just $10 less, so we figured the Switchblade was the one to go with. But yeah, good luck fitting this into any small spaces when it's unfolded. Luckily, it does work while folded, though, to the tune of its main 800 lumen light, but its backside also has something special going on to the tune of 500 lumens of their Color Right technology 90 CRI LEDs, which is pretty cool. Similar to the Milwaukee, very easy on the eyes, and even a black light function like the Steelman was rocking for identifying leaks. While this one certainly can't swap out its battery cells, it's closed up good and tight. It can use one of Streamlight's Stinger smart chargers for wireless docking to the tune of $30 with the cable, but maybe you already own one of those if you're buying a Streamlight. Having a lot of luck with the last Streamlight flashlight we tested, anxious to see what this one does. Of its 800, it makes 672, 671, 674, we're calling that 675 lumens. A bit surprised to see that. And this is the main light. Here's the 90 CRI side rocking 580, 590 lumens of the 500 it advertises. So the main light's 125 down and the backlight is about 85, 90 up from where it's advertising. A bit wacky there. But at least at that lower lumen level, it means it should last a while with this light's massive 5,200 milliamp hour battery. Let's find out with our runtime lumen over time test. We're going to see the two shortest lights first, at least while folded. The Streamlight advertises 3 3/4 hours on high, and the Milwaukee Rover says only 2 hours. You can tell right away the light color difference with the Streamlight. You can also rock its back panel for similarity. We measured the lumen output every 20 minutes on each light. You can see how the Streamlight drops steadily over time while the Milwaukee holds steady, but ultimately calls it quits at 2 hours and 40 minutes in, which is pretty good versus its 2-hour claim. The Switchblade lasting a long time with a huge battery, 3 hours and 40 minutes, right at its 3 3/4 claim. Let's rope in the Braun, Steelman, and Astro now in order on the right. The white line of the Braun hangs with the Milwaukee for a bit before they meet up with the Steelman at 1 hour mark. Then Steelman and Braun head down from there. The Braun trips in its low lumen setting before we click it back to high, and then it wants to go back into its low setting again and finally dies an early death around 2 hours. Met shortly after by the Steelman. Those 2200 milliamp hour cells not really helping anyone out. The ADSL came down from its high lumen level steadily, but never quite putting out less lumens than the Streamlight until it goes lights out at around 3 1/4 hours like it advertises. First to die was the Braun, lasting under 2 hours of its 2.5 hours advertised. Going into and out of high mode in the process, we imagine it would last 2.5 hours if you allowed it to trip into its low setting. The Steelman next, lasting 2.5 hours like they claim, but not being super useful along the way for the last hour or so. The Milwaukee died next, just over 2.5 hours past this 2-hour claim, that lower lumen level helping out probably. The Astro died next when it said it would, a more dramatic downward curve than the Streamlight, but also started higher. The Switchblade lasted the longest with the largest battery, and making less than it advertised to start out with, so that helps. We also take temperature on the lights during the runtime. Here's that. Our main takeaway here was just how much energy was turned into heat from the Steelman. Can't be too efficient that. And the Braun dropping in temp from switching into low and then back into high when we force it to. The overall low temperature curve of the Switchblade also sort of standing out here. Of course, with these lights, runtime is only half the story when it comes to rechargeable. How about that downtime? In most of these lights, it's as simple as swapping in a new battery cell if you have it, which is a bit more tricky or expensive for Milwaukee and Steelman, but all of these products can be charged with what's included. So let's give each of them the best shot there. The Harbor Freight advertises 4 hours charge time despite its small 2200 milliamp hour battery somehow. Looks like it's accepting 1 amp, pretty standard there. With the charge light now green, let's see 3 hours. Not super quick, but also better than they advertise, so that's always a plus on this channel. The Steelman takes a barrel plug, so we didn't really know how many amps it accepted. It took 2 hours and 20 minutes when we plugged it into the wall. The Milwaukee brags about fast charging up to 2.1 amps and 50% within half hour, 80% within 1 hour. Looks like we're seeing 1.8 amps here, pretty typical of 2 amp charging products that we see. And well, yeah, we roughly saw the charge times that Milwaukee calls out, just under 2 hours here, but only accepted 2600 milliamp hours. Not really sure the reason there. It certainly lasts long enough compared to their marketing. The ADSL has got a whole nother thing going on. You can charge within the light in the dock here. That looks like 1 amp, or fast charge on the side slot for just over 2 amps. Pretty good. And also charge the spare battery at the same time with both of them up to 3 amps. This one not needing a charge, but it does get there. Looks like the 26650 4500 milliamp hour cell took 4 hours, which is within the range of what they advertise. The Streamlight though, oh man, that 5200 milliamp hour cell. You could of course charge it with their charging dock here, but this light is not being helped out a lot at this charging current of 0.87 amps when fully drained. That's gonna take a minute. With it fully charged, we're seeing 8.5 hours. I mean, they advertise 8, so it's never going to be good, but you're honestly supposed to have 8 hours of free time to be charging this thing when it runs dry. From a top brand like Streamlight that's really supposed to be targeted towards the professional, this was surprising to us. You'd hope that they would maybe deliver more current to these batteries in order to generate less downtime when they need a charge. But if we're honest, none of this matters if these lights splatter and spread into a million pieces when you drop them. Time to break every single one of these, or try to. Let's see, 3 feet on the Harbor Freight, Steelman, Streamlight, Astro, here's the Milwaukee, Harbor Freight 3 feet again, and again. Now 5 feet, about shoulder height. Caused it to conk out here. Now with the button thing again, reassembling this with the battery, it does work again. Drop again at 5 feet. You can see the top lens broke off, but that's oddly the only thing still working on this light. Initially, bending it caused the light to flicker again like we thought it would work, but it was completely kaput after this. Retired at 2 5-foot drops. Here's the Steelman, 3-foot drops, no problem, although it does turn off each time you drop it. Sort of weird. Here's that at 5 feet, and here's this 5-foot third attempt. She's done. Nothing could bring her back after this. 3 drops at 5 feet. Milwaukee time, 3 foot, no problem. 5 foot, 3 times, no problem. 10 foot, 3 times, no issue. 16 foot, she puked her guts out. Just put them back together though, and she's good to go. Here's 20 foot. This is not only at the top of our ladder, but tossing it up to a mark to hit this height. 2 runs of her puking her guts out, and she lost her belt clip magnet, but still works. Just some weight reduction at the end of the day. A little scuffed up, but this thing's mostly a tank. Now for the ADSL. 3 foot is fine. 5 foot is fine. At 10 foot, we decided to drop it square on the top light. It didn't seem to mind until we tried to turn it on. Now that's dead, but the main light's still trucking. 16 foot, puked its guts right out. But similar to the Milwaukee, you just put them back together, it's ready to rock. 20 foot, it puked its guts out and it still works, but feeling a bit wobbly now. That's probably enough for this light. Let's check out the Streamlight. 3 feet fine. 5 foot fine. 10 foot more scuffs, but doesn't care. 16 foot, still okay, but it did get a bent hook here. 20 foot, this thing is just too big and beefy to die, although it did eventually lose one of its 3 magnets. Pretty stout, we couldn't kill it. Here's a look at all the testing we've done on these lights shown in order of price. You got brands here, images, model numbers, and price. Then what they advertised in Lumens, including auxiliary lights. Then how they tested. Biggest takeaways for us here were how much the Steelman made given its claim and given it's not even using all of its SMD LEDs for the main light output, and how Milwaukee was being more ambitious about its lumen claim than Harbor Freight somehow, despite their reputation on this channel for Harbor Freight's wild marketing claims. Then the Streamlight being a full 125 lumen under its main light marketing, but making up for most of that with the 590 that it was supposed to put out of its 500. Here's our measured runtime, the Harbor Freight coming up short in our example. Of course, you could swap in your own battery if you want. Then oddly, the Steelman and the Milwaukee both having the same runtime. Then look at the average lumens across the run, also exactly the same, yet somehow the Milwaukee has a much larger battery, 3000 versus 2200. Well, they both use SMD LEDs as well. We found that odd. It lasted longer than advertised, but where's all the energy going? We were curious, so we destroyed our red lithium USB 3.0 to open it up and find out. These are not easy to dissect, but it does appear it's got an LG30Q or 3000 milliamp hour cell inside. So our best guess is as good as yours. Maybe these high CRI style SMDs use more current. Back to the chart though, both of these lights lasted a long time, with the ADSL having more lumens on average. With charge time, the Milwaukee gets some props with fast charging in less time than its runtime, and the Streamlight, 8.5 hours, just seemed unrealistic for a professional. For charging style, most of these can swap batteries, which is nice. These two require special batteries you'll be buying from them. These two can take standard lithium cells, and the Streamlight can't, but does have a charging dock option at least. Here's their durability if we had to rank them in order based on the drop test. The Milwaukee was the biggest surprise there, and for magnet strength over here, the Steelman not having one was really a missed opportunity, we think. We feel there's a lot to like in this category of lights. We see more and more techs using them, and it must be for a reason. There's really only the Braun and Steelman we probably wouldn't recommend ourselves for what we do. But from the rest of these and how you'd use them yourself, hopefully we've provided some hard-hitting data so that you can make that decision yourself. An informed one, instead of manufacturer's specs and one-sentence Amazon reviews from someone staring into a light and saying, wow, this is bright. Appreciate you coming along for the ride. We'll be doing more of these with lights that are new to the market. Thanks for watching.